Hello, everybody. Welcome to a BookBase interview where today I am talking to entrepreneur, media strategist, and author Kimberly Mora, who's had a multitude of experiences in the corporate world, learning how to later develop her own brand, which includes 2 poetry books that we're going to be talking about today. If you want to follow Kimberly on her journey after you've seen this interview, please follow her Instagram for limitless_Kim. But thanks for being here. This is so exciting.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you guys.
Of course. Let's just get into our first question. Let's talk about how it all started. I know the last time we met you at Underdog Bookstore,
Yes.
it was for an event where it was an open mic session where you shared some of your poetry. But I know we also spoke about how you were trying to be a nurse, and you also mentioned your experience working in the corporate world before you became an author. What were you doing before this, and how did you exactly use those experiences to guide you to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So with me going through the writing process, believe it or not, my first experience of just writing down something into a project, into a book, was actually working for a City of Hope. So I was a CNA, I was working there for a while, and during COVID, there was a lot of feelings that I just kept in, but I started jotting it down. And I was like, man, you know what? This could totally be a book, So then, of course, I did my research. I was like, how would the process look like into writing something? And then I just started jotting it down. And then that's when I basically produced my first book. And here we are now in my second book, and I'm just excited to be here. Yeah.
That's so exciting because there's I don't know if this is a theory, more so of a practice that I've heard therapists recommend with writing your thoughts. Sometimes people say that when you write your thoughts, you make it real. And once you make it real, it's easier to address, because if you just keep it in your head, it's really hard for you to kind of not take it serious, but it's hard for you to kind of understand the gravity of the situation because you haven't put it out yet.
For sure.
And journaling or writing really helps being able to kind of convey your emotions to yourself, even though a lot of people I feel struggle with that. They don't even appreciate that, right?
For sure.
I could only imagine the stress and the stuff that you were feeling when you were working
Yes.
your jobs. Were you always the type to be open to journaling and writing your thoughts?
So I was gonna say that as well. After nursing, I started working for a corporate company. So I was a project manager for over 7 years. And during that time, that's when I started to do journaling as well.
Wow.
And I started just jotting down a lot of feelings, jotting down a lot of things that, of course you don't want to speak to the world about.
Yeah.
And that's, once again, goes to my second book, how we came about producing and just getting it out there with the second book.
For sure. I know you talked about you doing research to learn how to write and how to get things on paper.
Correct.
But instead of writing, I know you just said it'd be a great story. Why, rather than writing a story that could be a fictional story or maybe an autobiography where you write about yourself in the first person, you do poetry. So why poetry?
So I feel like poetry, the genre itself, is just something that you could speak to people in words and methods and different metaphors that actually hits deep more. So it basically communicates with people like how me and you're communicating right now. We're speaking just straight language, right? But poetry is a different language in which that it could be either spiritual and it connects with people. It could be metaphorically where you're talking about a table and it's oh wow, I could feel how that table feels, But it's different ways of communicating with people's feelings. So that's why I decided to basically produce a poetry book, because the poetry in itself, it's not just speaking English language. It's just more of hey, you know what? Let me talk to you in a different form and give you a picture of what I'm trying to communicate with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, were you always a fan of poetry before you started this?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
How did you kind of learn how to write poetry? Because I feel that's the first thing.
Yeah.
If I think about writing poetry right now,
Yeah.
the first question I would ask is how do you do it?
Yes,
because
of course.
some people make it look so seamless.
100%.
Yeah.
With me, it was just artists like Rupi Kaur, Milk and Honey. I feel that was my first book I picked up in poetry that was man, this is so raw, this is so heartfelt, that I was man, this speaks to me. I love the way she was speaking about realism and all that and her experiences in her life. So honestly, a light bulb came up and I was man, if she could write something like that, I feel my words could definitely correlate with that as well and just help people in different forms.
Yeah.
Because that book alone helped me. And also I started like, you know, following the work of, his name is R.H. Sin. He's in New York. And he really does like a lot of realism poetry as well, talking about women's strength, etc. So those type of poetry books are the ones that really called my attention. And then I was like, man, I'm so inspired. Like I could totally do it too.
That's so cool. No, you totally can, and you did, which is like really awesome to you know to talk about, which is why we're here.
Thank you.
Before we get into your poetry books, you know, what's your writing process like when it comes to transcribing your emotions and thoughts onto paper? Do you start like, do you do like a top bottom thing where you have a lot and then you condense into something small, or do you do it the other way where you have something very specific and then your job is to elaborate on that?
100%. So I kind of write in segments.
Okay.
So like if there's like a specific topic that I'm trying to portray, I break it down in different topics and I make sure that I write per topic in different times. So I kind of just jot it down, break it down, and if I know that the core subject is supposed to be said, what other things could follow from the main subject, from the main point of what the book is trying to portray.
Got it. And how long does that process take you? Like, is that something that you feel like naturally comes to you, or do you think that's a skill set that you've developed over experimenting and like constantly just trying to write?
Yeah, so truthfully, like with the first book actually, I had more like 2 years, 3 years of like just putting it all together. And then I realized, oh, like 1 through 10, this is how you put it together.
Yeah.
After that, I feel like I gained more experience and I'm like, okay, I get it now. So now with the second book, I was more confident and like, okay, I understand how the process goes. So it took me about like a year for me to get everything together, go through the process. And now we're here. We have a published book.
That's so cool. And you know, you just said that. Let's just get right into your first poetry book, Past the Light. It came out on April 20th, 2020. In the description of this book, you say, this book is divided into 2 different sections, each one containing their own chapters, serving different purposes, deals with different pain, heals with a different kind of power. Past the Light takes readers through a journey of the darkest moments of a heartbreak and finds a powerful feeling when finding faith, because there is power everywhere if you are just willing to look. If you don't mind me asking, what pain were you addressing in this book, and what inspired you to format it the way that you just described in your description?
Yeah, for sure. So Past the Light is a poetry book that basically talks about relationships and the ending and the pain of a relationship. Whether it's you with a individual that's considered your boyfriend, your husband, etc., or even a friend, you know, like I feel like a lot of people do experience pain in relationships in different forms. So with me portraying pain in this book, I actually take you through the light of like finding power within yourself, loving yourself, making sure that you always put you first. And that comes with the title as well. It's just passing the light. Once you find the light within yourself, it's pass the light to the next person, meaning the power that you find after that pain.
Was it hard for you to be able to kind of convey all of that into poetry? Because I feel like another problem that I'm thinking about, and it's not even a problem, it's a thinking, just a thought experiment where you write poetry and it's about something that you feel like is very close to you.
Yeah.
How do you know when you're kind of done with the poem? Because I feel like you can always do something about it, right? Like
100%.
especially as a writer, I'm
Right.
also writing, and I know we can both relate to that
Yes.
experience of
like when do you stop?
when do you stop?
Yes,
like when do you
absolutely.
call that line to kind of say, hey, you know what, this is how authentic it should be. I don't need to touch it, I need to send it.
100%. And it goes back to like the structuring of it, right? As long as I know that once the subject that I know what I'm trying to portray and I break it down, I kind of make sure that, okay, what the broke down subject is done. I need to make sure that that subject is said. Okay, now to move on to the next one. So it's kind of like reading through it and just making sure like, okay, I got across sadness, for example. So sadness, I'm like, okay, sadness was after that. Okay, I need to heal. I need to recognize the grounding. How does that look like? So it's kind of like once you go through those little processes, you're like, okay, I talk about sadness enough, but now like, what else can I do for the reader to cope with sadness, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a feeling that you're like, all right, cool. I need to jot it down, make sure that the next step is done. Because I'm not writing a sad book. I'm writing a book about power,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you gotta make sure you kind of read that through the
Yeah.
lines. Yeah.
I totally hear what you're saying, because you can't have a book about power if you don't not only show what happens when it's taken from you, but also if you don't show the other end where it's like you grab it back, right?
100%.
The self ability to say, hey, I have something that was taken from me. Like you were saying, because of relationships, it's such a heavy, taxing thing sometimes. You give so much of yourself in some of these situations where sometimes you don't have enough for you. And I could totally see how Past the Light serves as a guide to kind of say, hey, like kind of bring that light back to you and kind of keep on moving.
Right.
I don't know if this is a weird question, but did you find yourself first healing and then writing the book, or did you heal as you wrote the book? Because I feel like that kind of gives a lot more insight to how to deliver such raw emotions through these lines, right?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
especially things like sadness, and then you have
100%.
the ability to grab it back, you know, that powerful stance at the end.
Yeah.
So what was that like? If you, just to reemphasize the question, like, sorry, like, did you heal then write, or did you heal while you were writing?
Yeah, believe it or not, I was already healed.
Nice.
I was already healed, which is really interesting. So I was already healed. I found my power through faith.
Yeah.
And through, you know, different things, meaning like hobbies, people that I know that make me feel loved. Myself as well, like just, you know, self-discovery of who I am and reminding myself who I was. So I was already healed, believe it or not, when I was writing this book already. And I was like, man, like if I'm so bright and I could really impact people in different ways, whether it's my companionship or whether me just walking through the door and saying hello, like little things like that really impact people's lives. So I was like, man, I need to start writing, you know? So that's kind of like what happened with me.
Yeah, I totally feel the same way, where it's like, sometimes you go through such a horrible, not horrible, but you go through such a difficult time.
Yeah.
And then you recover from it and you heal, and then you kind of, you encounter another person that may be going through a similar situation, and it's hard or not to be like, dang, like I remember what it was like when I was in that situation, right?
Yes.
And I could totally see how, like, you know, you keep on seeing people struggle with things that you feel like you were able to kind of get a better understanding of.
100%.
And then that may have like helped you and you get that inspiration to say, hey, let me write this book because, you know, there's other people that are also going through a similar situation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And, you know, that's cool how you talk about how faith kind of helped you kind of get that solution to address it.
100%.
You know, I know that it's kind of hard to like look for solutions sometimes when you're just so deep in the problem.
Yeah.
But I think it's really, I think it takes a lot of emotional intelligence and a lot of self-awareness to be able to understand like exactly where you are in a situation, to be able to recover from it, and then to also then go back to it and then kind of look at it and say, hey, this is what I think is worth sharing with people.
100%. And that's with me, like I feel like I've always been a person, like if something traumatic happens, I've never felt stuck. I've always been a problem solver. Like ever since I was young, I've always been like that toddler, like, okay, I got hurt. All right, I'm gonna get up. I'm not gonna stay crying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's followed me like throughout my life and just being a young woman and just like growing through life. And I just don't stay stuck. You know, I just really try my best to get out of that hole or get out of that feeling, get out of whatever that's going on with me, because it's like, obviously with time, you do end up getting sick. Like, you know, people don't realize like a lot of feelings, whether they're emotional, spiritual, etc., it does get you sick.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people end up in the hospital, because believe it or not, stress gets you in the hospital, sadness gets you in the hospital. Like there's a lot of things that actually do affect people long term if your emotions are not taken care of, you know, and it starts with you at the end of the day. So
right. Yeah, no, I think it's funny how like when there's another limb of your body besides your brain, like if your heart isn't working right, or if you feel like there's something wrong with it, people are very quick to say like, oh, you need to slow down, like your heart's hurting, take a break. But when it's your emotions in your brain, or if it's like how you think about things, you know, that's one of those awkward moments where people don't really address it, right?
100%. And it's like same thing. When you need to lose weight, you work out, right? if you want to, I guess, quote unquote, get smarter, you read a book, right? Or you learn. But same thing with the heart. The heart does need exercises too.
Right.
What do? Oh, you know what? I like flowers. I'm going to go buy myself some flowers because it makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, you know what? What do you like to listen to? I like piano. Like, I like the piano noises. I'm going to go look for a pianist that's like performing to make my heart happy.
Yeah.
So like, believe it or not, a lot of people don't exercise their heart, but they should.
Right.
Because it's very important.
I think so too, and I think it's very easy to speed up, especially in the world that we live in. Like there's so much stuff happening. It's so much easier to put stuff on your plate rather than to force yourself to take stuff off your plate and then to say like, okay, now that I'm slowing down, let me go look for that pianist now that, you know, just see like where they're playing music. You know, that's really tough. And I think on top of that, people don't even encourage it, right? Like if you do that too many times, you know, people might think like, what the heck? Like,
what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you, right? Like you're over there looking for something to relax for, but they don't really understand how much it means to you.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have hobbies. Or, you know, honestly, I'm a big believer that do things with yourself. You don't need to have people around you or just come with you or whatever. Like sometimes you doing stuff by yourself, game changer.
Yeah.
Like it's like the most amazing thing. You go on a hike, you sunbathe by yourself or whatever. Like anything you could do for yourself and you're with yourself in your own company, that's the best power you could ever have and the best healing. Like I think that's really cool. Yeah.
No, I love that. I think it's true. You know, I think I don't think people realize that hating like whatever aspect you have inside of you that you're not a fan of. Like it's one thing to, I mean, I don't think anybody is happy with who they are 100%, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's the mission, right? It's to be able to understand yourself to a point where, sure, like there are some things you wish if you can make your own character like it's a video game, I'm sure you would have done things differently. But at the same time, it's like appreciate the fact that you do have those things because it makes you who you are.
100%. And just realizing too, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
And that's okay. That's great. You know, I hope you're not everybody's cup of tea because you would be an alien or something. Like you have superpowers. I don't even know. But I feel like that's important too, recognizing that, you know what, it's okay. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I take power in who I am and the right people will follow me or they'll support me or they'll go ahead and clap when no one's clapping. Like those are very important things to understand too as an individual. Like,
I just have to ask this question because I feel like throughout this interview, you show a lot of strength, and like I've gotten this vibe ever since we talked the first time.
I appreciate you.
You know, and like you talking about how when you were a kid, you got up whenever you got hurt and stuff.
Yes.
When I got hurt, I ran. I would not do anything. I remember my parents would throw me back into the ring, and I'd be like, I don't want to do this. You know, I'm a lover, not a fighter, and I got to sit down.
That.
And you know, I was a very big crybaby, where you know I had to learn to be able to get used to the idea that just because you get hurt, you know, that doesn't mean it's not worth having fun or doing stuff. Like you should still get up there.
Yes.
For you to have that at such a young age, I gotta say, like that's very impressive.
And I'll tell you why. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like me growing up, I grew up with a lot of boys. So I was the first baby of 5 brothers. My dad was the first sibling. So everybody, all of my siblings were my uncles and they were all younger. So I feel like that characteristic really did play a big part of who I am as a person too. I grew up with a lot of boys. You learn to be tough. I was a little tomboy. Like I was the only girl running around with the boys outside. Like it was just that dynamic. So I feel like that really helped shape my toughness when I grew older and just like becoming the woman with power and just learning not to stay stuck once I'm hurt, need to keep going, you know what I mean? So I feel like that dynamic in my family really helped me. And my dad as well, like he was an entrepreneur in itself. I always saw him work and come back home and he was really a powerful man too, very strength driven and also like goal orientated. And I feel like me seeing him move as much as he moved really like played a big influence on me as well. So I think it was really impactful. So
absolutely.
That's why I am the way I am.
No, for sure. I think your family definitely helps define how you, I don't think it defines who you are 100%, but it definitely defines the starting line.
Yes.
Because you kind of understand the ecosystem you're raised in, and it allows you to kind of see how you need to be in order to, like, you know, to be able to live in a dynamic full of boys, for example. Yeah, I don't know how my sister dealt with me growing up because I'm the oldest.
Oh,
and,
you are?
Yeah, and my sister sometimes acts older than me. Like, that's what's funny. So I think that's so funny how, like, you talk about just being raised around boys. You know, you kind of get that characteristic. My sister's the same way.
That's
and
awesome.
this is also another question I wanted to ask, because it's like you talk about how you're so strong and you saw your father as somebody that, you know, took the hits but kept on going.
Yes.
You see your brothers doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You were a part of it. But I feel like sometimes people do that and not address their emotions.
Correct.
I've seen people say like, get up, like it doesn't matter. You know, that classic machismo type
100%.
thing where it's like they'll keep this masculine image where it's like nothing affects me.
Yes.
And you're kind of saying that, but then here you are also writing poetry.
Yes.
How did you gain, or like what, if you can like kind of look back and just see
for
some
sure.
influences, when did you know, like how did you be able to call the line between this is when I got to be tough and this is when I should be vulnerable and address what's going on inside of me?
100%. It's just responsibility. It goes down to responsibility of like, how did I get here? How did I get here to feel this certain way? Whether it's anger, sadness, panic, anxiety. How did I get here? So number one is responsibility. Taking responsibility of how you got here. Maybe it wasn't your fault, maybe the world, right? But still taking responsibility that these are the feelings that I'm feeling. Feel it, make sure that you're grounded in it, understand it, but then also move to the next point of life, which is like, okay, I get it, I understand, I shouldn't act this way or I shouldn't feel this way. Sometimes it's not about me, it's about the other person. It's time to move on, right?
No,
so definitely, you know, even though I am like a powerful person, I do understand sometimes that it's okay to feel. And that starts with responsibility, taking responsibility for that.
100%. No, I think that's really self-aware of you to say that. I mean, I think people still struggle with that to this
100%.
day. And I think that's a really great lesson, right? Like what you said was really nice, how you said, you know, the world could be doing stuff to you, but that doesn't mean that you can at least acknowledge the emotions and where you are, right? You can be in a bad situation, but if you don't address that you're feeling bad and that these things are really hurting you, you really won't do much about it. And that's like a scary thing. You know, I've met a lot of people, me included, I've had work experiences where I'm working in a really crappy work environment. And I know it's bad for me. It's a bad situation, but you don't really realize like how bad it is until you understand the toll that it has on you. And the next thing you know, you realize, wait a minute, like I'm not sleeping right, or I am getting frustrated easily. I don't kind of have that same ambition for life the way that I had it. Now, you know, it's funny because it's like if I didn't acknowledge it, would it still be there? Yes, but it's because I saw that there, I was able to kind of understand like what you were saying, like, okay, I want to take responsibility for this. And that leads to you taking action to kind of help change your life.
100%.
No, thank you for sharing all of that, because I think, especially in a time where, I don't know, it's so chaotic. I feel like
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And you got to be able to understand like, that the more self-aware you are, you know, I think at first when people are first self-aware, they don't like what they see. I feel like they see like
it's the fear.
Exactly.
Or it could be disappointment.
The embarrassment, the shame, because you're just like, dang, like I really got here. But you know, this is where it leads to your second book. You know, the title is Healing Asked Me to Return Tomorrow.
Correct.
And I think that title alone is really important, because it's like the one day you are self-aware, you realize like, I do not like what I see. You know, you look in the mirror, you don't like it. And then, but if you want to heal, that requires you to come back.
Correct.
You have to come back.
Correct.
And you know, you talk about this as well in your description for your book. This second book is a poetry collection for anyone learning how to live with anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and the quiet, persistent fear of what tomorrow may bring. So it's kind of like what we were just talking about, right? Like it's that moment where you look in the mirror and you're like, I am anxious, I am depressed, I don't like the way that I'm dealing with things.
100%.
But then you also write, you know, it's written for those who feel everything deeply, whose nervous systems are tired, and for those who are trying to heal without rushing themselves through the process. Can you elaborate more on how you got the inspiration to write this book after you wrote the first one?
So it's just like, once again, it's taking responsibility of all the feelings you feel, right? And different feelings mean different things to different people, but at the end of the day, they're still the feelings. Anxiety is still gonna be anxiety. The feelings still gonna be the same, but the reaction to why you got anxiety could be different between different individuals, which is fair. But when I was jotting down these things, I was like, okay, like these are all feelings that are real in different people's lives, different situations, but I think it's time to put it out in the world to understand that it's okay, that we do agree on something, that I do feel anxiety or I do feel depressed. Oh man, you know what? I don't want to wake up tomorrow. I'm tired. Like my body feels emotionally tired.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of like the mindset that I was going for.
Sure, absolutely. And I think it's cool how you kind of double back. I think these poetry collections are not even important for people outside of you, but also you yourself, because you look at this and you see where you once were and you see how you're constantly improving.
Yes.
If you don't mind me asking, can you kind of provide more context to this novel? Because I know the first book, you said it was about relationships. So you're going through a rough time, and then on top of that, you were doing nursing, and then you were in the corporate world, and you were fatigued.
100%.
What was kind of going around your life during this book when you were writing it, and you were feeling the panic attacks, the depression, and the anxiety attacks? Like, was there a lot going on with you?
Yeah, there was different things going on.
Yeah,
At that point, it was my corporate job. Not saying nothing about corporate America. I feel like it's amazing, it's awesome. So not shutting them down, but I think over time as an individual, when you know that there's another goal or another future self that you're trying to accomplish, sometimes it's suppressed by things that you need to do for life to survive, right? So it's okay, you work a 9 to 5, but you still need to pay bills. You still need to provide food. You still need to, in my case, take care of my dog. So I feel like things like that was really suppressing me in some ways, because I was like, man, you know what? I understand I need to do these things because I need to survive, but I'm also like suppressing my future self of who I want to be, right? Like the person that I know that I'm meant to be. And I was like, man, all these feelings are not healthy. These are not healthy feelings to feel. So I was like, okay, like I need to figure out how to do this, right? So like with time and days when I was journaling, you know, I had like certain things, certain feelings that I was feeling, and I was like, man, you know what? I can't do this. Like, this is so crazy. So then after I was like, all right, I started like listening to a lot of podcasts like Jay Shetty, Mel Robinson, like all of them, and just studying kind of like, okay, how do I get to a different point? Like, obviously I understand I need to be at this job to survive, but also I need to understand like, how could I cater these feelings to another point where I don't feel like this anymore, right? In some cases, in some people's ways, they're going to remove themselves from the corporate life, or they're going to do something totally different, go to a different corporation, which is totally fine.
Right.
But I think what's really important here is to understand that, you know, you just need to take responsibility of where you're at, take action on it, feel something different, do your research on it too, and we'll move on.
No, I love Mel Robbins.
I love Mel Robbins.
She's so I don't know, the way that she speaks is just so
calming.
So calming, but it's also so direct.
Yes,
like you
I
feel
love
like
that.
she's like that one maternal figure where it's like she says something,
like
you straighten up. You're
She's
like,
a mom.
She's a mom.
Like a no's no, but you don't even have to tell me like crazy.
Exactly.
Just calmly. I'm like, oh my God, it means no.
One of my favorite clips of her, she's on a podcast. I think it's her podcast. She straight up says like, you know, I'm going to talk to everybody that's in their late 20s, early 30s. Slow down.
Yes.
You know, slow down.
Yes.
Like everything you think that you want to accomplish, you will accomplish, but you need to slow down because there's no point running a marathon if you burn out in the first quarter. You got to just be able to understand your workload and be able to keep on going for a longer moment of time.
100%.
No, and I think that's really important to distinguish how like your first novel, you know, is around your first poetry book, sorry, it's around relationships, and this one is about you working, and that struggle is something I feel like a lot of people also identify with, you know, being able to distinguish what I got to do to survive and 100%. What do I need to do to give me that sense of purpose or completion or just that self-gratitude where it's like, oh, I did this for myself.
100%.
If you don't mind me asking, you know, building off of your first book, do you see similarities and growth in areas that you feel like have been addressed in both books? And what's that type of introspection like when it comes to putting it all out on paper to show that transformation where it's like, this is who I was in the first book, but look at me now.
Yeah.
You know, like
oh,
that's
man,
crazy.
That's a great question. I feel like with both books, the whole purpose of it is basically just empowering the next person.
Right.
That's like the trend for sure. Like I said in the beginning with the Past the Light and also this book right here, I think in the end of the day, we need to be responsible for ourselves, but also once we are responsible for ourselves, it's okay to pass on the power that you have and the knowledge and all the things you've been through to the next person. So I feel like that's the trend that we're going for here. I think it's really empowering when you speak to somebody and you change their mindset, or you talk to them and you empower them with just a simple hi, I think that's really powerful, you know? So,
I think you as a living example is also really powerful because I think it would have been, it's not like it's hard, but you know, if Past the Light was a book about finding healing and you know, trying to heal from it, and then in the second book you're not doing as well, you know, like the second book is like, I'm actually worse.
No, yeah,
you know,
100%.
I'm not saying that you can't do that, but I think, you know, your two books kind of sets this version of you kind of like practicing what you preach in a way, which I think is really great because I think, you know, if I want to take advice from somebody, I would want to kind of look towards people that are already embodying it
100%.
because then it shows that like what you're saying is true, if that makes sense, right?
Like you already walked that road.
Exactly.
I haven't walked that road yet, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Like, is this healthy? Like, what's going on?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, and that's why I think your poetry is so important because it's like that's where, yes, like if you zoom out and I look at Kimberly Mora's life, like yeah, it's a trend, like it's going up, you're doing good.
Right.
But then it's like you zoom in and it's kind of like the stock market where it's kind of like, maybe it is going up and down.
It's your lifeline.
It's your lifeline.
And that's what some people don't realize. Like if your lifeline is not going up and down, you're dead. If your line is straight, you're not alive. I'm sorry. Like you're not alive anymore.
That's a powerful line that you just said.
It's so true.
It is so true.
Because it's like, I know some of us, you know, we go to hospitals, we get our, you know, yearly checkup, whatever, like what's my weight, like, you know, but, you know, pay attention to your oxygen levels and see like, hey, you know what? I want to see my lifeline. They're going to show you. And if you look at it, it's your lifeline. It's always going up and down. That's how our lives are in like actual life. You're never going to have a life that's up, 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 up. Even if you see people like on Instagram, whatever, you see people that are doing the best. I'm accomplishing this XYZ. But behind the scenes, we don't know what they're going through. But at the end of the day, we're all living a life that's always going to go up and it's always going to go down. But the purpose is how do you work on your life when it's down to get your life go up again? How do you get your heartbeat going again? You know what I mean?
Right. You got to try.
100%.
You got to take responsibility.
You have to take responsibility for it.
No, and I think that's what serves as such a great example is that like, you know, we look at all the success that you've had so far with like, you know, now when I did research on you, not once did I see you being like, I'm still in corporate America doing my thing. Now you're an entrepreneur.
100%.
Now you're doing your own thing. Now you're able to do things like with us, for example, we're able to talk about things that you care about instead of me talking to you about like paperwork that you filed one day. KPIs. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to know what that means.
The reports. Oh my God. KPI is crazy. Key performance indicators.
Got it.
So it's like, oh.
No, I remember
which
hearing
fine.
that. Elias, I remember hearing that in the MBA program, right? Yeah, the KPIs. No, I remember.
Oh, dude, it's real. The reports, the metrics, etc. Which is great. Like I said, corporate America, I love it. I love it. I love corporate America. But I feel like in this place in my life right now, it's time to just put me 100%. What does it look like for Kim to put 100% in projects that I'm really, really passionate about? So we're going to see.
I mean, and there's a lot of benefits to the corporate world, you know, like, I mean, if we wanted to talk about that, it's a whole different, like, interview.
That is,
but I mean, the thing about the corporate world is that it's ruthless in the sense where it's like, there's no bias in your personal situation in the wheel that is turning.
Of course.
If you're struggling with yourself, corporate doesn't care because corporate only wants to see the KPIs. They want to see the reports. If you can't do it, they'll find somebody else.
100%.
So there's that pressure where it's like, I need to perform even if I can't really get there myself.
Yes.
And again, like that's why I think your second book, Healing, Ask Me to Return Tomorrow, is so powerful. I know I asked you this question before, but could you read some of your favorite poems that you think speaks the most to what you've been talking to me about and what you've been kind of experiencing, like just throughout the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll read a couple.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got here.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, the camera's right there, so if you want to look at that, then we can,
All right, let's see what we got going on here. All right, we'll do a nice little short one here. Grounding begins where honesty begins, and honesty begins when you stop editing your own pain to make it prettier for the world. So this poetry segment really spoke to me, and it really changed like my perspective on a lot of things, because once again, it goes back to taking responsibility of what you're feeling, understanding it, being honest about it, but don't worry about what the outside world thinks about it. So it's okay to be tired. It's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to feel pain, whether it's emotional or spiritual. Regardless of it, you're still feeling it, but it's okay. And it's not for the world, it's for you to feel.
Yeah.
So
I definitely like how you use the word editing, because it reminds me of Photoshop and like, you know, when you take a picture, what's the first thing people do? What's the right filter?
Yes.
I got to get rid of like the details on my face that show that I'm tired, the wrinkles or whatever. But it's like when you said it that way, it kind of made me feel like, you know, when you take the photo, just click upload. Doesn't matter what it really looks like because you know at the end of the day,
you know what you're going
you know
through.
what you're trying to see.
100%.
And it's okay to show that, which is another important thing, right? No, I really appreciate that. Do you ever feel embarrassed or ashamed when at moments like when you're writing this? Like, I know you're so, you know, for you to be able to be this strong to share it is really encouraging and it's inspiring.
Yeah.
But, you know, do you ever have moments where it's kind of hard to put it on the paper? Because it's like, dang, like, am I really going to share this?
100%.
Yeah.
With this book alone, I cried. There was a lot of moments where it kind of got me off guard because I was like, man, emotionally, this is really making me feel something.
Right.
And emotionally, like, I'm like, oh my God, I need to cry. I need a second. I need like an hour to process this. But I feel like that was the point. That means I'm doing what I need to do. Because it affected me that way, it's gonna affect someone else that way. Yeah. And be like, wow, I understand exactly how she feels. I feel like that. You know what I mean? No,
you're so brave.
So I think it was like really powerful for me to understand that it's okay, these feelings are good. These feelings are healthy. It's okay. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's a great thing to see that you keep on going. And I think it's really great for you to share that. And I thank you for answering that question, because when I was writing it, I didn't want to kind of put you off guard and say like, oh my gosh, like I don't want her to think that I'm trying to find a low moment or something.
No, it's okay. It's a great question.
Yeah, because my follow-up question is, what is your advice for people that also want to go on this journey where it's like, I kind of want to write poetry, but I'm kind of scared that if I write on the page, I'm going to have a hard time kind of putting it out on paper. Like a personal specific journey like this is just not easy to sometimes talk about in general. You know, what is your advice for people that want to be as strong as you? You know, they see you just doing so many great things, but I guess like, you know, for them, they feel like that's a little bit too out of reach. Like, do you have any
100%.
words to kind of...
Yeah, I would say that the only limitation you have are the limitations you put upon yourself. So for anyone that's looking into getting into poetry or becoming an author, a spokesman person, anything, that little spark that you have in your heart that you know that you want to do it, it wasn't placed on there by accident. There's a reason why you got these dreams, these goals, these business ideas, is because it's meant to be. And that's what the thing that you need to step forward and the actions. 5 steps forward, whether you're just jotting down some names, whether you're just writing in a notebook, just start jotting down and don't be fearful of what the world's gonna say, because actually the world is actually waiting for you to put it out there.
That is such a great message. I think it's great that you say 2 things. You say, like, you know, don't ever dissuade yourself from understanding your dreams and your passions. But I like that step after that you say, take action for it, right?
100%.
Because if you are going to believe in yourself at a specific moment, you have to ask yourself, like, well, do I believe enough to do something about it,
100%.
right? And like, I think what you've been showing throughout this whole interview, through your stories, is that like, you are okay with experimenting even if it doesn't go the right way all the time. Like you getting hurt and getting back up from you being a little girl to where you are now, to taking the step of leaving corporate America and like being there for yourself and making your own brand. You know, you don't get to that point where you're able to make your own brand unless you're okay with the idea of falling down and getting up and trying and experimenting.
I've always had this saying, for sure, like, if you're gonna fail face forward. Do not land on your back. Face forward, face forward.
Yeah,
Keep
I would
going.
hate to do something dangerous with you. You're gonna tell me, go straight.
I already went skydiving, so that
wow.
I am a wildcat for sure. Like,
that's
I like
awesome.
doing things that are out of the blue, and also like last minute plans. I love that too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think things like that are important.
Yeah, for sure. Is that the fireplace making that noise?
It is.
Oh, that scared me.
I think it's turning off. It's okay, we're gonna edit this out.
Yeah, no worries. No, I thank you for sharing that. And, this is like kind of like we're approaching our last question.
Okay.
Somebody wants to pick up this book and say like, is there anything you want to say to people before if they were to pick up this book, kind of like hey, like, when you read this book, just keep this in mind. Just something to kind of say like, this is an author's little perspective before
For
you
the
get
perspective of an author for this book, Healing Asked Me to Return Tomorrow, the first thing that you're going to see is just the responsibility of all the feelings you feel, whether it's anxiety, panic attacks, fear of tomorrow. And these are all things that a lot of people are going to feel working a job, honestly, because that's what I wrote it from, me working from a corporate America facility. It's fine. But those are things that don't stay stuck.
Right.
There's little things that you could do. So that's why these segments actually take you in a different form, a different journey of how to basically not embrace, but understand that this is what you're feeling, but these are things you could do. So there's a lot of healing in here as well, like a lot of exercises that you could do. There's a lot of poetry segments that talks about, walking outside and just getting your natural vitamin D, like things like that, eating healthy, working out, sitting down with yourself and praying, whether you believe in a religion or not. Pray to the universe then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But those are little things that actually come about with this book that you could help people in those forms too.
Yeah.
So those are things to expect.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway, right? Like in the beginning, it's the responsibility, but just like life, you have to work in the book to get to the part of healing. And it's the same thing where it's like, if this book was a metaphor for anybody's life, it's like you first deal with the responsibility, and then when you get to the later chapters of that journey, then you start seeing the healing, 100%. And you start seeing the exercises, and you start seeing the health that comes off of taking care of yourself.
Yes. For sure. Like it's healing, right? So you have to work at it. You need to work on it. Right. No one's gonna knock on your door like, hey, you feel better, Nate? Like, no one's gonna do that.
Yeah.
Only you yourself is responsible for that.
Right.
So I think that's important too, is just recognizing, man, you know what? The only one that could pick me up is myself.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing everything. Thank you for talking to me about your books. Thank you for reading a poem. And thank you for inviting us to just be here to speak to you about this, because, that this is just the beauty of like talking to authors and writers that really care about their craft, is that they share messages as powerful as this one.
For sure.
Like I said, if you guys are interested in learning more about Kim, please check her out at limitless_Kim on Instagram. And from there, you will see a link that goes to all the other things that she's working on, as well as her updated posts on her journey. But yeah, Kim, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Once again, I really appreciate this, and I can't wait for your next podcast, see what goes on.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Hi, guys. My name is Kimberly Mora, and I'm super excited to announce that Healing Asked Me to Return Tomorrow is now available on BookBase.